When we are typing in computer, the font should be made to italics. The name, that is the binomial name, should always be in italics. The genus should always begin with the capital letter. So you have to start the genus with the capital letter. So here M is in capital. We know that the second word represents the specific epithet. So here the first word represents the genus. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to the session on chapter 1, that is the living world. I am Dr. Divya, biology faculty, Vidhyaashram School of Excellence, Mysuru. So in this session, let's study about a small topic, that is universal rules of nomenclature. So we shall understand this topic and learn some of the MCQs under this particular topic. So let's start with universal rules of nomenclature. So we know what nomenclature is, right? So nomenclature is nothing but assigning or giving a name to a particular organism. So what is binomial nomenclature? Binomial nomenclature means binomial, that is giving two names to a particular organism. So wherein the two names are nothing but called as two components, wherein the first component will be the genus name and the second component will be the specific epithet. So when we write a scientific name or whenever we give a binomial name to a particular organism, we cannot write names however we want. There are certain set of rules that are there, and we studied in the previous session about ICBN and ICZN. So they are the ones that actually assign names to a particular organism. So here, what are the rules when writing a biological name? Like when we write our name, there is a set of rules that we follow, right? Our name should start with a capital. Then we also include an initial. So when we write initial also, there is a set of way how we write an initial. Similarly, here also there are some rules that we need to follow. So the first rule is the biological name should be in Latin, meaning words should be picked from Latin language. Though we write in English alphabets, using English alphabets, the words are in English, but it should be from Latin language. So that is the first rule. The second rule is the words or the letters should be italicized. It should be in italics. So when we are taking a printout or when we are typing in computer, the font should be made to italics. The name, that is the binomial name, should always be in italics. Next, the binomial name should always have two components, wherein the first word should be the genus and the second word should be the specific epithet. Like for example, we have Mangifera indica, which is the biological name or binomial name or scientific name for mango. We can't write it as Indica mangifera. That is wrong, because always the genus has to come first and then the species or the specific epithet has to follow. Next is handwriting. So when we are handwriting, that is when we are using a pencil or a pen, and when we are writing down, at that time we cannot italicize that particular word, right? Because if we try to italicize, a handwriting will look odd. So that is why when we are handwriting a biological word, it should always be underlined separately. Next, the first word should always start with a capital letter. So the genus should always begin with a capital letter and the second should always start with a small letter. Next, talking about the author name. So whenever we write the author name, it should always be written after the specific epithet. And since it is a noun, it should always start with a capital letter, and we are not supposed to fully write the author name, but we have to write it in short form or it should be abbreviated. So we'll understand this clearly. I'll explain to you using this particular example, wherein I've taken the example of Mangifera indica, which is nothing but mango. It's the scientific name for mango. So shall we recall what were the rules that we had to follow? When printing or when typing, it should be in italics. So if you can see here, this whole text is in italics, not the author name. Author name should not be in italics. It should be in regular font. But the font of genus and the specific epithet should be in italics. And the word should be picked from Latin. So, mangifera is a Latin word as well as indica is also a Latin word, but we are writing it in English alphabets only, but the word comes from Latin. Next, talking about the two components. So always the biological name should have two components. That is, the first component should always be the genus and the second component should always be the specific epithet. And as I told you, the genus should always begin with the capital letter. So you have to start the genus with the capital letter. So here M is in capitals, capital letter. And the specific epithet should always start with a small letter. Always start with a small letter. And the author name, this one, Lin, this is the author name. So the author name Lin should always be written after specific epithet and it should be abbreviated. That is why we have put a dot, meaning it should be abbreviated. Abbreviated means short form. So this whole name is actually Linnaeus. It has been abbreviated as L-I-N-N with a dot. That is how it has to be written. So these are the universal rules for nomenclature. So now, because we know what are the universal rules of nomenclature and how exactly we should write a binomial name or a scientific name of an organism, we shall move on to the next. And I also told you, while handwriting, the word should be underlined separately. That is, you have to separately underline the mangifera and separately underline indica. So this is how a binomial name is written. So next, let's move on to the MCQs that can be asked under this particular topic, that is binomial nomenclature. So the language used for binomial nomenclature is it Italian, Spanish, Latin or Sanskrit? Remember the universal rules. So the language that is used is Latin. So we are supposed to take binomial names only from the Latin language. So the answer here is Latin. Next, biological names should be written or typed in dash format. So it should be written or typed in italics format. So biological name should always be in italics. The font should be in italics. So while handwriting biological names, it should be completely underlined, separately underlined, generic name only underlined or species name only underlined. So here I told you, while writing a binomial name, for example, we have Panthera leo. I told you while writing it, we have to underline both specific epithet and the genus, but it should be underlined separately. So the right answer here is separately underlined. The first word in a biological name represents. So the first word, for example, here, Panthera tigris. So the first word, it always represents the genus, right? And we know that the second word represents the specific epithet. So here the first word represents the genus. It is a correct answer. The second word in a biological name represents, I already told you previously. So the second word represents, it is specific epithet. Here the name of author should appear. Where should the name of author appear, or where are you supposed to write the name of the author? Should it appear before the specific epithet? So I'll take an example, before genus, after genus or after specific epithet. So here example, Panthera leo. So this is the genus, this is the specific epithet. So where are we supposed to write it? Are we supposed to write it before the specific epithet? No, that is wrong. Or before genus? Here? No, that is also wrong. Or after genus? Here? No, it's wrong. So where are we supposed to write it? We are supposed to write it after the specific epithet. So the answer D, that is after specific epithet, is correct. So if you know the rules of binomial nomenclature correctly, then answering these will be easy. Next, in the biological name Mangifera indica lin, lin stands for. So we know that lin stands for Linnaeus, wherein it has been abbreviated as lin. The author name Linnaeus. So it is the author. So the author is the correct answer for this. So this was about the session wherein we learnt about what is binomial nomenclature a little, because it was already done in the previous session, and in detail we learnt what are the rules of binomial nomenclature, how to write a binomial name or a scientific name, and based on that what type of MCQs can be asked and the right for answer for those MCQs, all that we have learnt. So we shall meet again in the coming session with a new topic under this particular chapter, the living world. So I see you in the next session. Thank you.